Welcome to this week's Championship Chatter, everyone. My name's Dan from the Four Blades in the Pub podcast, and I'm joined by Phil.
Good evening, everyone.
And this week we're joined by Stu, who's going to bring some Tottenham knowledge to us this week and a bit of Championship knowledge on top of that. Evening, Stu.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Pleasure. So last week when we had James on, obviously we spoke about the Fulham-West Brom game being the biggest game of the week in the Championship. I foolishly went for a West Brom win, and that was quickly blown out of the water after about 12 minutes when Fulham were 2 up. It looked fairly comfy from obviously the highlights that I saw. Mitrovic is on fire. Bill, what were your thoughts from what you saw of it?
Well, I think I was a bit closer to the accuracy, actually. I got 3. I think I said 3-1. I think I said the first goal will dictate the path of the game, and looking at what I saw in the highlights, it looked like that's what happened. I've got to say, though, Fulham got a little bit lucky with a couple of decisions that probably influenced the game in a big way. But you're right what you say. Mitrovic is just on fire at the minute. Give him a chance and he's going to score it. He's at 18 in 15 games so far this season.
Yeah, something like that. He's scoring at 1.2 a game, which is just over kind of that over that number of games is just ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's one of those things that's annoying me already this season. I mean, I hated VAR last year, and Stu, as a Spurs fan, you benefited from a VAR against my team, Sheffield United, a couple of years ago. But some of the refereeing I've seen has been abysmal. The first goal for Fulham, it was never a penalty. The sending off, Furlong sending off, he clearly won the ball. And probably Fulham would have won the game and it would not affected it that much anyway. But West Brom have probably got reason to be a bit aggrieved because they've been let down by bad refereeing again. You see it a lot.
I mean, I think Snodgrass should have walked as well. I don't know if you saw the challenge where he kind of went in with his forearm. Yeah. The only one he did get right was the most obvious one, which was the red card for the lad from Fulham.
Oh, it's a shocking
awful challenge. Absolute leg-breaking challenge. But yeah, I mean, you know, like we said, obviously they got the rub of the green, but Mitrovic just looks like a cheat code in this division. He looks like a dad playing in a dads versus under 10s game.
It's true, though, isn't it? He looks like he's going to score. I don't know whether he's a confidence player and being at this level, he's got the confidence to get in those positions and he knows where the net is clearly. But he seems to just, whenever he's in the Championship, he is like a cheat code, like you say. And he'll be the person that I think Fulham will rely on to get him up again, because I think he will.
I think that's the difference. I think you look at the top 2 teams at the minute, and they're the ones that have got the best strikers. So you've got Solanke banging him in for Bournemouth, you've got Mitrovic banging him in for Fulham. All right, they're not one-man teams. Obviously, there's 10 more players and squads behind that, but these are the ones that are turning what ordinarily would be tight games into wins. I think that seems to be the difference. I think those two are going to be at the minute they seem to be the difference makers in the division, don't they?
And Fulham are creating a lot of chances as well. I mean, we're probably going to talk on it a little bit later on, but I've got the XG table in front of me as well. So where teams would be had their expected goals gone in or gone against them, and Fulham are clearly top of that league as well. So if you're creating a lot of chances and you got someone like Mitrovic up front, it goes without saying you're going to score a lot of goals and win a lot of games.
Definitely. He's definitely like. I was quite impressed with him when he was in the Premier League. Obviously, I watch a lot more Premier League football than any other. And he was definitely one of them players that I expected not to be at Fulham this year. You know, when they went down, it's because he kind of gives off that aura as a bit of a prima donna. And you think he's going to be one of them, like, they've been relegated, so he doesn't want to play in the Championship again. He's going to, want to go somewhere else. But no, he seems quite happy there, doesn't he? And the fact that they beat West Brom, which in my house is very good, because although I'm a Spurs fan, my missus is a Wolves fan. So
right, okay, yeah.
I lived in Wolverhampton for a year myself, so seeing West Brom getting beaten is always a really good thing here.
I love that.
What's his record like in the Premier League? Obviously, it's nothing like as good in the Championship. But does he fall into that category of just too good for the Championship, not quite good enough to do it consistently at Premier League level? Is he kind of stuck just somewhere in between?
Yeah, I think like Premier, like Championship and a half. If there was such a thing, it'd be like a top player in there. He maybe if he was, I don't know. if he was at I was going to say a half decent team in the Premier League, you don't know, because he's very much that target man kind of player, isn't he? He's a big lump. You give him the ball and he'll score a goal. I don't know. He's still fairly young, so maybe if he was at someone like I don't know. Trying to think who's in the middle in the Premier League.
You might say Everton, but I think didn't Benitez have him at Newcastle?
He had him at Newcastle. It'd be good. I could see Mitrovic at someone like West Ham. He's a West Ham kind of player to me, because he's a bit dirty. He gets in the, he gets stuck in and all that sort of business, doesn't he? He'd be a good sort of West Ham type player. Sorry, Fulham fans.
You're right. He's got that kind of cult hero vibe to him, where he's all action. He puts himself about. He's covered in tattoos.
Similar to how Di Canio was. Similar to Di Canio was when he was there. Again, sorry, Sheffield United fans, because he played.
You're having a blinder tonight, are you?
I know, but we'll see. We'll see next year, because Fulham are bound to, the way they're playing at the moment, unless they fall off, unless he has a massive season-ending injury, Fulham are incredibly likely to go up. So I'll be interested to see what he does next year with the team he's got and the manager he's got and the tactics that are being played now.
Yeah. I think you're right about Fulham, and I know it's early days. We're only 2 days into November, but it's almost like the top two's nailed on already. You can't see anyone reeling that top two, and I think
it's like when Wolves did it a couple of years ago, wasn't it? They just run away with it that season, and Fulham are doing it again. Or Fulham and Bournemouth are doing it this year, aren't they? Really?
Bournemouth are just head and shoulders, aren't they? They're so far ahead of everybody. Is it 5 in the bounce they've won now? They've won 37 points in 15 games. It's incredible, really, isn't it?
I think it's the best ever start to a championship season, isn't it? And like we were saying last week, with the points they've got already, realistically, they don't actually need that many more wins to almost guarantee at least playoffs.
Yeah, no, you're right. I was just going to say, roughly 50 points now will get them up. So what's that? 17 more wins?
Yeah.
In what? How many games are left? 31 games.
31 games. So you're only looking at winning. You're only looking at having to win 1 in 2 to guarantee promotion, not just.
Yeah. So it's going to take something spectacular for Bournemouth to not go up this season. Likewise, something I wanted to mention on the back of what you've just said, Dan, I think it's going to take something spectacular for Norwich City to not be in the Championship next season.
Oh, yeah.
And a point, I read something, one of their, I think it was their chief executive said this week, about they're fine with that. They're okay with this going up and coming down and going up and coming down and going up and coming down, because they're in a good, stable place. Will Norwich ever be in a place where they're not championship and a half, as you called it, as Mitrovic would be good in? Are they ever going to establish themselves? And is there anybody in this current crop that can actually establish themselves, or are they going to just do a Norwich?
Well, I don't know. See, Bournemouth did it, didn't they, last time they came up? Fulham were another sort of yo-yo-ish team. Sheffield United were up for a couple of seasons, weren't they, before they went down. Wolves have been up for a while now, and they're quite well established as a mid-table team. I don't know. I don't think Norwich will, as much as I like their manager.
My question's probably more along the angle of, are Norwich doing it right? Because if you look at us at the moment, Sheffield United, we're in a mess. We haven't really got any kind of foundations from those 2 years in the Premier League, whereas Norwich have built their infrastructure. They haven't really spent a lot of money when they've been in the Premier League, and they're coming down and they've still got that squad to build upon, and they've got the infrastructure around them, whereas such as us and a Huddersfield probably looking in a slightly different way. So are they doing it the right way, or are you better trying and spending money when you get there for it to potentially fail?
I suppose with Norwich, what Norwich have got going for them is the fact that they've got quite a few good young players, haven't they? And if they go down again and then go back up, then what are now young players are going to be in their sort of early to mid-20s, and they're going to have that bit more experience. So that might be enough. Whereas I'm not sure what the youth setup's like at Sheffield United or teams like that. I don't know. So maybe.
Their chief exec said, I can't remember, about 3 or 4 seasons ago, their model was based on them being one of the top 26 clubs in the country. So the idea is that they come down, they finish top 6, they go back up. They bank some of the money, they come down, they invest in infrastructure, they come down, they finish top 6 again. So as far as their business model is concerned, they're doing it right. But
can't be fun for fans though. Every other season they get beaten.
It's fun every other season, isn't it? It's fun every other season. You get 90 points, 24 points, 90 points, 24 points, 90 points, 24 points. You're almost guaranteed a good season every other. But
it kind of makes you think, doesn't it? Like, what would it be interesting when you, like you say, you've got the top 26 and Norwich want to be in that thing, and are they happy and fans happy with going up and down and blah blah blah? Would it sort of be an idea to go back to the old days of Division 1, like I'm talking way back in the 80s, where you'd have a playoff between the team who was like 17th and the team who was 4th or 3rd or 4th?
Yeah,
Championship. You have a playoff between them. I think doesn't Italy do something like that now? I mean, the Serie A and Serie B, they rather than automatic promotion, automatic this, and obviously you've got the playoffs already in the league football, but the playoff between the Premier League team who's 17th and the team who's 3rd in the Championship, would that kind of, I don't know, where would Norwich, but they'd be in it all the time, wouldn't they? Because they're always going to finish either 17th or 3rd, probably. So
you
in the same situation.
Just put them into playoffs at the end of the season and be done with it every year.
Yeah, just be done with
it. You're right. With English football had something like years ago, didn't they?
We were the first team to ever get relegated because of that.
We got relegated because of that, didn't we? Yeah.
Maybe you don't want that idea. We'll put that one back in the back burner.
Trust me, if they didn't have that, we'd just find new and interesting ways to get relegated. So it's not, whatever the criteria is, we'd fall into it somehow.
As long as you stay away from League One, you'll be fine.
Again.
Yeah. There's no guarantees the way we're going at the minute, but
we'll leave that to our dearest.
So on the subject of players and clubs being not good enough, slightly too good for the Championship or exciting in the Championship and not good enough for the Premier League, our old friend Neil Warnock set a record this weekend for 1,601 games in charge in English football, and he's going to break that tonight. I think. Yeah, 1,502. He obviously falls into that category of someone who's got a fantastic track record of getting teams promoted. I don't think he's ever kept a team in the top flight, has he? He's been relegated.
I think he did QPR.
Did he keep QPR there? Fair enough. But his record isn't great. So, I mean, this is obviously not to have a dig at him. It's more to laud him, because 1,600 games in charge in English football is some achievement. And pretty much, a lot of success in that, and well thought of, a lot of clubs, a lot of promotions in there, a lot of exciting times. So obviously we did touch on Neil Warnock a bit last week, but I think it's just worth marking that, as a real achievement, to be fair.
It's incredible, isn't it? He's in his 70s now, and he still seems as passionate now as when, it was year 2000, was it? He took over at us, and
yeah.
The passion that he brought to the club, and the exuberance that he brought to the club, he still seems to have got that now 21 years later, and fair credit to him, because he's still getting results. Middlesbrough on the verge of the playoffs, and you wouldn't bet against them going up again.
A mate of mine played for him when he managed Toddick, which was one of his first ever clubs. He did say he was a dick, but he was obviously obviously remember playing for him. In fairness, he did say grudgingly he got the best out of him by abusing him at half time and telling him the fullback was the winger was ragging him all over, and he said he went out and smashed his winger in half in second half, and Warnock kind of went, "Told you I'd get best out of you." So he's been doing that for his entire career. But yeah, like you said, Middlesbrough, they've got you wouldn't back against them getting into playoffs this season, would you?
No.
Sometimes the old Mike Bassett rule with football management works, doesn't it?
We've got kind of a bit of a skewed view on Warnock, because obviously he managed our club, and we've kind of seen him as a Sheffield boy as well as a Blade. What's he for a Spurs fan, as an outsider? How do you perceive him?
Warnock, he's one of them managers that, for me personally, and I think a lot of just football fans in general, that everyone just loves him. I think him and like Harry Redknapp are the only managers that I think is universally loved by everybody for completely different reasons. Like Harry Redknapp seems like a genuine nice bloke. Everyone likes Warnock because he's a lunatic, and I think he's amazing because he's obviously completely nuts, and he's an old-fashioned football manager, but he's old-fashioned in a cool way, not in a Sam Allardyce or a Steve Bruce way. He's like Oh, a Neil Warnock team. Yeah, what'll happen? You don't want to piss him off because you'll get headbutted in the changing room. Even though he's in his 70s, you still think he would. He'll still come, kick your head in, even though he's, as old as most of the players' granddads. But I think he's brilliant. I'd love it if he got promoted back in the Premier League. Imagine him in the Premier League with him versus Conte. Christ.
Yeah, you're right. It would be good to see him back in Premier League to see how he'd react to getting a bad VAR decision, and like you say, him against Guardiola, against Klopp, against Tuchel, against Conte. Yeah, just for one season.
Just for one season. You want Middlesbrough against Burnley, and just let him and Dyche have a go. Just stick him in the centre circle with a ring around him, and just let.
You wouldn't want to film the match, would you? You'd want to just film them two.
You just put a camera on the dugout in Burnley versus Middlesbrough, and it'd be amazing.
Yeah, when Sky used to do that, when you used to be able to press the red button and do player cam, you used to be able to follow that Sol Campbell around. You could just have manager cam and just have a camera focus on him and Dyche going at it like a couple of terriers on touchline.
It'd be amazing. I'd watch that all day long.
So, obviously, opposite end of that scale, someone who just completed 1,600 games. Barnsley have just been their manager off after a fairly short space of time. 7 defeats on the bounce. Obviously, Big Mick got his marching orders last week after 8 defeats on the bounce. Barnsley's manager 7 on the bounce, and in fairness, I think the writing was on the wall for him. Where do we see Barnsley going from here? Do we think they'll go down the same route of an unknown German coach, or are they better looking for someone with a bit of championship nous to try and keep them up?
Nuno's available. He did well in the championship. Not anywhere else.
I mean, attract Portuguese superstars to Barnsley, though. There's a bit of
that's a big sell to get someone like Ruben Neves to play at Oakwell.
A little bit closer to home, it's the weekly Chris Wilder bingo. Who's he going to manage this week? He's been heavily linked with Barnsley, and still living in Sheffield. You can see him shooting up the M1 and taking that job, in fairness, because I think we said it last week, he can't keep getting linked with jobs and not getting them for whatever reason, whether it's him that don't want it or they don't want him. I think eventually he's got to get one of these jobs for his own future career.
Yeah. Do you honestly think that's the sort of job he'd take, or do you think he's holding out for, again, no disrespect to Barnsley, a bigger club?
I think he's had potential opportunities to get those already. Swansea was named, he was mentioned, who I would class are a bigger club. Forest got overlooked. There was talk of Newcastle being one of the jobs that he was hoping for. So I don't know. There's I don't know. Yes, I can see him managing Barnsley. I do think it'd fit him.
And do you think he could keep him up? I know that's a big if, and it's just a bit of a pump. But do you think he's the sort that could?
Wow. I mean, they're on 6 points after. Is it 6 points? Hang on, 8 points after 15 games. They're only 5 points off safety at the moment. So there's a lot of football still to play, and if he can get that team performing like Ishmael did last season, because although they've lost a couple of players, they haven't lost wholesale changes.
Yeah.
There's no reason why he can't get them climbing the league. They're not a bad side. They look woefully short on confidence, and that is something they would get if someone like Wilder took over.
That's a thought. I mean, we've seen it firsthand that he can kind of come in and turn an underachieving bunch who look short on confidence, turn them around fairly quickly, get them believing in themselves. He's got that Neil Warnock, Dave Bassett, Harry Redknapp kind of man management thing where he can get players, players playing for him fairly quickly, but he's also very tactically astute, isn't he? So he might be a good fit. I think it's a big sell for Barnsley to sell the club to him, sell that project to him. But yeah, I think he's the sort of guy that could go in there and do something fairly quickly.
I think 2 years ago, if we said that is Chris Wilder likely to be the next Barnsley manager, we'd have probably laughed. The problem is his stock's dropped a decent amount now. He's not getting looked at for the Everton job, the Newcastle job seriously, the Spurs job that's just come up, whereas 2 years ago he might have been. So he's got to start again somewhere.
It would be a good fit for him. Like as you say, his stock's gone down. If he goes to Barnsley and he keeps them up, then that's when he'll get. Say he keeps Barnsley up and he keeps them up, well away from say middle bottom of the mid-table kind of thing. You're going to have 3 teams coming down, and the way that the manager merry-go-round works at the moment, you're likely to have probably at least 2 of those managers are going to get the boot if they get relegated from the Premier League. And if he's just kept Barnsley up, he'd be in the frame for one of them.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, that is a good chat. Actually, be in line for Watford job or
Watford or Norwich.
Yeah, Norwich. Yeah.
Because Farke will go if Norwich go down.
Newcastle come down and they suddenly got a bottomless pit of money to spend.
Right, yeah, it's possible. It's entirely possible. It'll be one of them teams, or there'll be one of the teams from the Championship that only just missed out. It will be like, right, off you go, manager, and he'll get one of them. So he's better off going to be the manager of Barnsley, saving them, just to, so his name is still out there and people still know who he is. Because the whole time you're not in a job, you just get forgotten.
Yeah. You quickly become yesterday's news, don't you?
Exactly.
So, obviously, talking about the bottom 3, looking at Hull, I think, are still firmly ensconced in the bottom 3, but possibly a bit of good news for them on the horizon, looking like getting taken over. I think they've started, I think they describe it as a period of exclusivity with a Turkish media mogul who's looking to take them over. Obviously, they've been looking to get the alams out. They've not been a popular ownership team for a fair bit. So, do we think this could be the start of a bit of a lift for Hull? We saw firsthand on Saturday what a new owner can do for a club. How getting rid of the Oystons have made Blackpool, some of the smiles on Blackpool's faces. So, I think this could be the start of something new for Hull, maybe.
Couldn't care less.
Okay, fair enough.
They've got a rational dislike of Sheffield United, so as far as I'm concerned, I couldn't care less. No, genuinely,
okay.
You're right what you're saying. They've been down in the dumps really since they're in the Premier League because of the ownership, and I mean they tried changing the name and stupid stuff like that.
Tigers, were they?
It just I don't like it. We're foreign owned, and I don't like some of the things I hear from our chairman. I can imagine it can get quite poisonous in those kind of scenarios, and I just hope it never happens to our club, and I can see it happening as well, sadly.
Yeah, I mean, you look at chairmen that have tried to change things. The Cardiff chairman tried to get them playing in red. I mean, it's just crazy, isn't it? Just stuff like that.
You can't do that. You can't do that
against everything. Yeah, it goes against everything your fans.
It does. It's like Spurs fans. Like Spurs fans get the arse because our sponsor is red. So if you try and change our football shirt to red, it's like, no, wouldn't happen. To get the ump and your sponsors red, and for Cardiff to be, they're blue. Yeah, we're going to be red now.
The nickname's the Bluebirds.
Exactly. You can't be a red bluebird. And yeah, you don't start messing about with stuff that's an institution. And a lot of these foreign owners seem to think they can because they can just chuck money around and don't work that way.
Yeah. Don't jump on my back, Hull fans. I was only kidding.
Like I said, we saw on Saturday. Obviously, Blackpool came to town. Obviously, Blackpool have been a club again in a slump since they got relegated from the Premier League. They've had, fans falling out with the Oystons and fans being banned and fans boycotting. They've obviously got new owners and they look like a club on the up. They got promoted last season and they're doing well this season. They were kind of skirting under the radar a bit at the beginning of the season. I don't think they can anymore. I think they're legitimately up there as a decent side. I thought they were a really, really good side.
Just a point on Blackpool. I've got to make, if there's any Blackpool fans that watch this, the fans on Saturday were the best I've seen at Bramall Lane.
Yeah, outstanding. Yeah, they were outstanding.
From the first minute, and I know they won the game and they're going to celebrate it, but from the first minute, they never shut up.
No, they didn't.
Well,
and they seem to have assembled, from what I saw on Saturday, a good side. They're getting a tune out of some players who you probably wouldn't have expected. I mean, we've all laughed at Richard Keogh over the years. He's become a bit of a figure of fun down the lane, because he looks like a surprise goat for most of the game. But on Saturday, he was outstanding. He won every header, won every tackle. He was throwing himself into blocks. It's what you want, and the manager looks like a bit of a rising star, really. So yeah, fair play to Blackpool. I wouldn't even call it a smash and grab. They kind of defended well. They defended well, and they've got players who can hurt you on the break. So fair play to them, absolutely.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's Blackpool are in the top 6, Coventry are in the top 6, 2 teams that came up last season. Bit of a surprise package, but they're there on merit. They're doing really, really well, and Coventry look a real side as well, don't they?
Coventry, speak about Coventry. Coventry are the reason I support Tottenham.
1986 FA Cup.
Yeah, is this the cup final?
87 Cup final. I support Tottenham. I was 87, so I was what, 10, something like that. I was about 10 anyway. And I remember feeling so sorry for Gary Mabbutt because he scored the own goal that won the FA Cup for Coventry in 1987. That I was like, I'm going to support his team. That was the whole reason I support Tottenham is because of
Coventry. You're kind-hearted.
Yeah. It's funny how I turned out because I'm nothing like that now.
Brilliant. You've basically set yourself up for a life of kind of relative misery supporting Spurs.
Pretty much. Well, it started off quite well because, like, you know, obviously I was getting into football then, and then we won the cup in '91, and we had Gazza and Lineker in the same team. You know, that's stuff dreams are made of. And then it just went gradually downhill from there. And then went up slightly when we had Poch, and then it went back down again. And it's like, well, this is Tottenham, isn't it? That's why I'm such a sick
Right.
Yeah, so obviously, just segueing onto that slightly, obviously Spurs have appointed Conte today. What's your thoughts on that? Personally, I think that's a great appointment. You know,
it's an amazing appointment. It's it kind of makes you wonder. Like, I know he came out and said today that he didn't join in the summer because it was too soon after leaving Inter, and he wasn't sure what he wanted to do and blah blah blah. I think it's more to do with the fact that, okay, we've played 10 matches of the season. Harry Kane's still there, which was one of the big selling points to whether he would come to Tottenham in the summer, would be, you know, was Levy going to keep hold of Kane? And he's still there. So I'm definitely happy because I feel bad for Nuno, but to be fair, he should never have been given the job in the first place. It wasn't a poor performance by him that got him the sack. It was a poor performance giving him the job back in June or July, whenever it was. But Conte, I'm looking forward to it. And I've been sat here this afternoon whilst I've been working, sort of dreaming, okay, well, he's going to play 3-5-2. That's his formation, isn't it? Like, who's going to play where? And it's like, you know, we've got the players that can fit into that. It's going to be interesting. But with Tottenham, I think it's more of a case of whether the team can be bothered to turn up. You know, we've got the players. We've for years, it's always been a case of we've got the players, but can they be asked? And it'll be interesting to see if they are, because knowing how Conte is, if they don't, they'll be straight out that door, and he won't think twice about doing it. And
he's not a respecter of reputations, is he?
No, exactly. He doesn't care who it is. He doesn't care who it is. And I would assume that Levy would have known that when he hired him, because Levy is well, we know how Levy can be when it comes to buying and selling players. But Conte, he's not going to take any ball from anyone, including Levy. So we'll see. But I'm quietly confident that things are going to change. He says, rolling his eyes.
In fairness, we were quietly confident at the beginning of this season that things would change at Sheffield United, and we're the very definition of inconsistent at the minute.
It's a shame.
17th in the division, but you know.
I'd love to see Sheffield United back up. It's like, and I'm not just saying it because I'm on a show with 2 Sheffield United fans. I've always had a soft spot for them, and the reason for that is because I had a really good save Football Manager where I was a manager of Sheffield United when they were still in League One. And because I had this really good save as a manager of Sheffield United, I've always kind of had a bit of a soft spot for him since then.
Listen, if we'd have known that at the beginning of the season, you'd have probably wanted front runners job, to be fair.
Well, I should have threw my name in the hat. You know, when I took over, it was years ago. They were still in League One. And I was, you know, all the way to the Premier League into Europe. You know, I could do a job for it.
Well, depending on how results go for the rest of the season, you might get your chance.
Well, you know, I shall,
the way we're going at the minute. I mean, we did actually say last week that if we won, the referee was at fault or the opposition were lucky. But yeah, like I said, going back to Saturday, we can't really say that. Blackpool absolutely deserved the 3 points, and you know, that's off. So just kind of heading back to the Championship, the game of the day, really. I don't think there's anywhere else you could be other than Stoke City Cardiff. You know, 3-0 up, back to 3-3. could have gone either way in the last few minutes. Kind of everything the Championship's about, really.
I mean, Stoke were just cruising, weren't they? Watching the highlights on Quest at the weekend, they didn't look under any trouble at all. They had, I think, Cardiff had one chance in the first half, and Kiefer Moore was a bit of a pain for them all game. But other than that, up until the first goal, I don't think it ever looked in doubt. But then what happened next was incredible, really. And let's be honest, they should have won it. Cardiff should have won the game. If it wasn't, what was his name? Harris, that got caught offside.
Marginally offside.
Early. He didn't need to go as early as what he did. If he had held his line, he'd have still been onside. He's kept his line onside. He'd have still been through 1-on-1 and probably scored. Could have been 4-3. What a turnaround that would have been.
I mean, I saw some criticism of O'Neill, the Stoke manager, saying he should have done something, should have reacted when they started conceding goals. But they scored 3 goals in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's almost too quick to react. If they go 3-1, 3-2, and then he's got 10 minutes to react and move things around, that's fair enough. But 3 goals in 5 or 6 minutes, he's barely got time to make any changes, make any personnel changes. So you can't really blame him. It's just one of those kind of freak results, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's we nearly had it against Barnsley, didn't we? When a team gets up, a lot can change quickly, and it nearly did. We managed to hold out for a 3-2 win. So, yeah, it's definitely game of the day. Although there was some other good results out there, definitely game of the day. 3-0 to 3-3. It's got to be.
I mean, saying that, I've just defended Michael O'Neill, but I am actually I'm having Stoke down as my stinker of the weekend, blowing a 3-0 lead within space of 5 minutes. They've got to be down as stinker of the weekend.
Well, my stinker of the weekend was, give me a second, Ryan Yates for Forest. I don't know if you saw it. He missed from under the crossbar and put the ball to the far post. The ball's come across from the right-hand wing. He stood under the crossbar and put it back where it came from. One of the worst misses I've ever seen. So that's my stinker of the week.
So on the opposite end of that, so obviously we've all been football fans and we all make unconscious noises when things happen. Either goals go in or saves are made or results go in, and it tends to be like a oof or a oh or a oof. So we've decided we're going to have oof of the week from now on. So my oof of the week was Reese's goal for Preston. They smashed him from a fairly tight angle from the corner of the box. And I know you said when I suggested it to you in the group chat earlier on this today, Phil, your kind of question was, did he mean it? I think he meant it. I don't think that's a miss it cross. I think that's an absolute rocket.
Yeah, I think he means it as well, in fairness. I'm probably being a bit unfair to him questioning it, but he's hit it like a rocket, hasn't he? You don't put a cross in like that. He's put his laces through the ball and kind of almost hit across it to get it into that top corner where he's put it. Hell of a strike.
Yeah, and he's done well this season, in fairness. He's got some goals this season, just signed a new contract. He's the sort of player that might be attracting attention from elsewhere, but he's just signed a new deal. Possibly could have got himself a couple of grand more if he'd have signed that deal Monday rather than Friday.
Going in a week too early, I think, but never mind. Actually, only because of the fact that you've put that down as your oof for the week. Being a keeper, my oof for the week is Stephen Fletcher's goal for Stoke. When he's hit the ball from 20 yards out, it's hit defender's arse and the keeper's just stood there watching it trickle in behind him. I know how that feels. It's horrible. And there's nothing you can do with it as a keeper.
Oh, so are you not defending? Are you defending the keeper on this one, Phil? Just for context, Phil was a goalkeeper and will not have a word said about any goalkeeper ever, as long as I've known Phil 20 plus years, and he will defend goalkeepers to the end. So that will, I'm guessing, be a recurring theme.
100%. Wasn't the keeper. I didn't do anything about that.
No, you can't always blame the keeper. See, I look like a keeper, but I was a left back myself. I probably should have been a keeper because I'm like 6'5" and fill up the goal, but I was
the other way around. I'm built like a fullback.
So you're a five-a-side keeper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I think, like I say, really, there's only one. That strike was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a great hit. It's an absolutely brilliant hit. Fair play to him for kind of taking it on. So really, to kind of finish off, just looking forward to kind of this coming weekend. There's 2 fixtures that really stick out for me. One of them is probably already a relegation 6-pointer, and it's 2 clubs you've already mentioned. That's Barnsley v Hull. I think the loser of that one, if there is a loser, is in all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, totally agree. It's mad to think that we're talking about relegation 6-pointers already, and it could be inconsequential anyway, because they could both quite easily still go down. But it's massive. If Hull win for Barnsley, that takes them clear second bottom by quite some distance, and I think Derby can catch them this weekend as well, which would be a big statement for Derby to get above them.
Yeah, for Barnsley, that would just psychologically, for a team that have had a big points deduction, to go above them. And it's we're at a really early stage. We're only beginning November. I think that would be massive for them, to be honest. So yeah, I think Barnsley need to do something with that one. The other one that caught my eye was West Brom Borough. Just from again, two clubs we've talked about already. And this is not me being snarky in the slightest, because I do appreciate kind of up and out in football, but don't see that being one for the purists. You've got kind of West Brom's alehouse set piece type of football where they get the ball forward. They like to press, and they like to make the most of set pieces. And you've obviously got Neil Warnock's Borough, who'll do the same thing. So I wouldn't expect that to be one that Pep Guardiola will be setting his Sky Plus for.
There'll be no step overs in that.
No, you'd be dragged off. Step over and you're off.
Yeah.
How West Brom do without the long throws? Furlong's not playing, is he?
Yeah, that'll be interesting actually. And if there is someone that can kind of explain West Brom's kind of defensive frailties, possibly, Warnock will have balls smashed down the keeper's throat and balls into the box. Again, like I say, I'm not being snarky, because we had it at the Lane for years, and it was some of the most exciting times that we had. I think there's definitely a place for this type of football. There's definitely a place for getting the ball forward and being all action and knocking it front to back very quick. Possibly one of the West Brom's kind of weaknesses this season. They possibly need to develop a second style for when teams do repel that kind of that up and at 'em style. They need to be able to do something different, and maybe that's what they need to develop over the kind of second half of the season, really, if they're to try and reel Fulham and Bournemouth in.
Yeah, it's a fair shout.
So just out of those two games, if we pick Barnsley and Hull, score predictions?
I'm going to go for a Barnsley win, actually. I think Barnsley will get the win that they've needed for so long to put Hull into even further trouble. I think it'll be a pretty dour game, but when teams are low on confidence, one thing can change it. I think a goal either way will probably settle it, but I think Barnsley will win.
0-0, ball draw.
Fair enough. Just to complete this, I'm going Hull to nick it. I think Barnsley are just, unless they get a manager in the next couple of days and they get that new manager bounce.
Yeah.
I just think they look absolutely on their arse at the minute. So I'm going for Hull to nick it and possibly stick Barnsley bottom of the league.
Fair enough.
Right.
What about the long ball derby then? Where are you going on that one?
5-5. I would say West Brom, even without Furlong, I would think they're possibly going to still have too much for Borough. So I think West Brom possibly comfortably 2-0, 3-1, something like that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think West Brom will have too much for Borough. I think if what Borough have got is that hard, fast pressing style that West Brom do so well, and I think West Brom will outdo Middlesbrough at that. I think they'll win that quite comfortably.
Yeah, same 3-2. It'll be fairly close, just because there's going to be loads of balls oofed in the box. It just takes one of them to bounce in a weird way, doesn't it, from both teams? So there's going to be goals. So yeah, 3-2 West Brom.
Fair.
Listen, lads, I think that's about done it. I think it's been another enjoyable week. Obviously, episode 2 of Championship Chatters. We're getting better at this as we go on. Hopefully people are enjoying it. Anyone obviously wants to interact, obviously hit us up on any of the socials, on Instagram, on Twitter. And yeah, hopefully we've got a good weekend of football to cover this time next week. So
yeah, we're looking to hopefully get fans of other clubs on in the coming weeks as well. So again, if anybody's interested, hit us up. You've got our YouTube channel. If you click on the app and you'll see stuff on social media, let us know if you're interested in being involved. I'm sure we can sort something out.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sheffield United have got a game tonight. We're away at Forest. I've yet to see the team. If Jack Robinson's playing, then that might tip it in the favour of watching Bake Off. We were discussing this before. We think it's dessert week. If Jack Robinson's playing, then I'm heading towards dessert week. If he's not, then maybe I'll red button it. But hopefully we're discussing a couple of Sheffield United results, a couple of Sheffield United wins by the time we do this next week. But yeah, lads, it's been great. It's been a good laugh. So again, catch you all next week, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers. See you later,
Cheers,
guys.
guys.
Cheers.